As soon as Trump landed, he said a few words to the camera, talked to fans, shook hands. Biden landed, and what they did was completely different. As soon as Trump landed, he said a few words to the camera, talked to fans, shook hands. Biden landed, he said hi to some politicians, then disappeared into an SUV. Biden is in Brownsville, which used to be a migrant hotspot until the governor secured it with razor wire. Razor wire Biden tried to snip. There's no action in Brownsville. Last night, only 6 migrants crossed. That's why Biden chose it for his photo op. If he went to a sector with a lot of foot traffic, or as Jill Biden says, a lot of tacos, it could turn into the biggest Biden rally of the year. Muchas gracias, Jose. That wouldn't help. Biden didn't even look at the razor wire that secured the border in Brownsville. They took him to a sanitized setup where not a single migrant was being processed. Probably safer this way. Biden couldn't handle the terrain. Nancy wasn't there to hold his hand and almost face planted on a cactus. Now, once they corralled him indoors, Border Patrol agents had to guide him around like a fragile animal.
Anyway, it's amazing. It's amazing.
Thank you, HSI. Thank you, ERO. Sir, it's time for remarks. And our briefers, I invite you to our seats, and then we'll escort you this way.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. We'll now come over here with our friends from ICE, HSI, and ICE ERO.
Good to see you, man.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Got to stand on my mark. My mark's back here. I'm told where I stand, little X's. I got to be careful what I do here.
If you don't tell Biden where to stand, he might wander into Mexico, where the Sinaloa cartel will probably throw him a fiesta. Now, Trump was 300 miles away in Eagle Pass. That's the epicenter of the illegal crossings in Texas. The former president marched down a dirt path flanked by fencing and then locked eyes with a caravan across the Rio Grande. Watch this.
They like Trump. Can you believe it?
Now, after getting a raw tour of the border, Trump grabbed the mic and let it rip, branding Biden as the migrant crime president. Watch.
Now the United States is being overrun by the Biden migrant crime. It's a new form of vicious violation to our country. It's migrant crime. We call it Biden migrant crime, but that's a little bit long.
Every time you hear migrant crime, you think Biden. These are Biden's migrants. He invited them, he let them in, and if you get hurt, that's on him. He still won't say Laken Riley's name.
And to hold you responsible. Mr. President, do you bear any responsibility for Laken Riley's death?
Biden still hasn't called the family. But at this point, he was on a first-name basis with George Floyd's relatives. He checked his watch as the coffins came home, ignores the East Palestine toxic train wreck for a year, and falls asleep at funerals. He can't even perform the basics.
I spoke to her parents yesterday. They're incredible people. They're devastated beyond belief. But she was beautiful, just so beautiful in so many ways, and brutally assaulted, horrifically beaten, kidnapped, and savagely murdered. The monster that charged in the death is an illegal alien migrant who was led into our country and released into our communities by crooked Joe Biden. He's crooked. I took the name away from Hillary because she's no longer relevant, I guess. She was terrible, but what he is doing is just unbelievable. Joe Biden will never say Laken Riley's name, but we will say it and we will remember it. We're not going to forget her.
Laken Riley would be alive today if Biden had just done his job, the job all presidents have done before him, protect the homeland from an illegal alien invasion. Donald Trump says Biden doesn't know it, but we're at war.
It's a military operation. I mean, we have this is like a war. It's a military operation.
Now, the president's allowing a cartel-run Trojan horse military campaign into the heart of the homeland, and he's blaming Trump for it.
So here's what I would say to Mr. Trump. Instead of playing politics with this issue, Instead of telling members of Congress to block this legislation, join me, or I'll join you, in telling the Congress to pass this bipartisan border security bill.
Now, let's save $20 billion and put up razor wire, stop, catch, and release, make them remain in Mexico instead of remain in America. Now, it wasn't too long ago that Biden's border guy was bragging about what they've done.
We have rescinded so many Trump immigration policies, it would take so much time to list them.
The Biden administration doesn't even call them migrants anymore. They call them newcomers. Well, one of Biden's newcomers from Guatemala was just arrested for raping an 11-year-old in Utah. Jonathan Garcia says he met the girl at a soccer game and thought she was 13. Mr. Garcia, I don't know about in Guatemala, but in Estados Unidos, 13 is still rape. Many of Biden's newcomers are unfamiliar with, how shall I say it, our cultural standards. And now we're reporting a migrant rape almost every day. Immigration is the top issue in this country, and Trump has a 35-point advantage on it. A 35-point advantage on the top issue in America. That's the reason Biden went to Texas. He's struggling to save himself from political deportation. You know how you know when it's political? When they tell you it's not.
This is not about politics for the president, and it was not about politics. This is not about politics for the president. So again, not about politics, because this is not about politics.
Biden and Trump brought every news camera in the country to the border today. It's an optics war, and Trump won. The voters have soured on Joe. There is no coming back.
He's wasting his time. Mr. President, what are you doing here? By a stroke of a pen, you can stop this. You don't need Congress.
It feels like it's a day late and a dollar short.
I don't know what his purpose is, to be quite honest. We've had this situation for years. He has not shown up. It just seems a little too late.
Biden could have come to the border, apologized to the agency smeared with the racist whipping hoax. He could have witnessed a detention center stuffed to the gills. He could have said Laken Riley's name, but he didn't. The president's fading like a ghost. Nothing's clicking. His son's being deposed about felonies. The Her report says he's old and slow. Fannie's blowing up Georgia. The Supreme Court's throttling his legal strategy. 100,000 Democrats just voted against him in Michigan. Migrants are on a murder spree, and his dog bites everyone in sight. They say if you want a friend in Washington, get a dog. He doesn't even have one anymore.
It's not about justice, it's not about agenda, it's not about mobilizing people, it's about dialing for corporate dollars. These two parties have sold the U.S. government and the American people to the highest bidders.